We'll start with the heart, and here's the first question. How's your emotional health? Health. Okay. And for a lot of men, we like to have objectives, goals that are measurable. This is why we like points in a sporting event. This is why we like percentages on interest rates. This is why we like, periods in, income balance sheets. There are some things that are a little harder to evaluate, like how's my emotional health? But you can answer that. And when it talks about the heart in the Bible appears about 900 times. It's a massive mega theme in the Bible. And the heart includes more than just your emotions, but it is encompassing your emotions. Jesus says it this way in Matthew 15, 18 and 19. What comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart. Out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false witness, and slander. So what Jesus is saying is the heart is upstream, the belief and the behavior, it's downstream. If you're like, man, I cuss a lot, I really am not good to my wife, and I'm a pretty perverted guy. The heart is the issue. Once the heart is right, upstream, things change downstream. And a lot of times guys are working on behavior modification rather than heart transformation. And this is really a crucial key to fathering. The key to fathering is to get your kid's heart and connect it to God's heart. And as soon as you have their heart and God has their heart, the rest of that child's life is going to get sorted out. If you don't have the heart, ultimately that child is going to sneak or rebel or self-destruct. We're the sons of God. We're his kids. And so ultimately, to be a Christian means you actually get a new heart. God's like, I'm going to take out the old heart, I'm going to put in a new heart. And so when we're talking about your heart, two things I want to tell you. Here's what I've seen in men. Number one, the one sin that I've seen infect and destroy hearts of men more than any other is bitterness. If you're a man, you've been used, abused, abandoned, betrayed, stolen from, lied to, taken advantage of, and underappreciated. True or false? True, that's the world we live in. And as a man, if you have a sense of justice in you, eventually you reach a point where you're like, I'm very frustrated. That was wrong. I am very upset about whatever that may be. Some of you right now, it triggers people at work, bosses who abused you, maybe a wife who was unfaithful to you, or people who stole from you. There's a sense of justice that comes upon a healthy man. But if you choose bitterness instead of forgiveness, what you're doing is you're poisoning, you're destroying your own heart. Because at the end of the day, bitterness, and when you're sinned against, and I know as men, we're all sinned against, you have two choices, forgiveness or bitterness. That's it. There's a fork in the road. And if you choose forgiveness, then you're going to go up to God and God's going to come down to you. If you choose bitterness, you're going to go down to Satan and Satan's going to come up to you. When all is said and done, I say this all the time, there's only two cultures, heaven and hell. And in the middle, when you're sinned against and offended and you're frustrated and you're unhappy and you're hurt, you have two choices. I'm going to invite heaven down or I'm going to pull hell up. And as soon as you choose bitterness or unforgiveness, you're choosing the culture of hell. Hell is a culture of bitterness and unforgiveness. Heaven is a culture of forgiveness. And so what happens if you choose bitterness, now what you're doing, you're poisoning your soul. How many of you know a man, maybe it was even your father, your grandfather, he just got bitter, surly, jaded. It got dark. His heart got very hard. He lacked empathy, compassion. He was just a difficult, surly, grumpy, difficult man. But he had a reason for it. Something was done to him that he couldn't get over and he wouldn't release to God. And as a result, he allowed that to really poison his heart. And it infected and affected all of his life and relationships. The other thing that can really damage your heart is if you are a man, and this is a good indicator, if you experience emotionally a high degree of fear or anger, your heart is not in a good place. Some men, they're driven by fear. They don't want conflict, they don't want failure, they don't want shame, they don't want criticism. They're driven by fear. Other men, the flip side, some men have anger, but really under the anger is fear. And the anger is someone or something that I love is not going to be given to me, or it'll be given to me and then taken from me. So the fear is, I got the job, but what if I lose the job? The fear is, I got the girl, but what if I lose the girl? And what happens is, most men don't like feeling weak or insecure or fearful, and so then we overcompensate with anger. We kick up the testosterone, we get very frustrated, we're like, that's it, I'm gonna go from Banner to Hulk, I'm turning green, and I'm gonna break some things, and I'm gonna go get my justice. And I would just tell you men, you've gotta constantly ask this question, and if you have a healthy wife, she's going to be helpful. How is your heart? How is your emotional life right now? Okay? And if you're always angry, you're not healthy. If you're never angry, you're not healthy either. Jesus was angry every once in a while, but he spent most of his time in joy. He had times of anxiety, he had times of oppression, he had times of exhaustion, but Jesus lived in joy. And there were times that he would have appropriate or healthy anger or anxiety, but he would return to joy. You need to know that you as a son of God, you and I were made to live in joy. Before sin entered the world, before Satan and demons showed up, every day was a good day. God's like, here's a girl, she's naked. You're like, this is a good day, all right? This is a good day. We haven't invented clothes yet. Here's something to eat. You're like, this is really working out in the direction I was hoping, okay? And then Satan and demons show up. Next thing you know, we're angry, we're fearful, she's wearing clothes. Everything went sideways. It was just a horrible situation. And so what happens is, as soon as Satan and demons show up and we sin against God and we hand our godly masculine dominion to our enemy, not only is our dominion gone, so is our joy. So is our joy. So Jesus comes for the joy set before him. He endured the cross. So Jesus died so that we could be saved. He rises so we can get new life. And then he sends us the Holy Spirit, and the fruit of the Spirit includes joy. As a man, if you are doing well, you will live in joy. And when you deviate from joy, you will return to joy. That's how you know, that's your plumb line, that's your north. A healthy person is a joyful person. And it doesn't mean that they're always joyful, but they return to joy. And let me say what this will do. This will create in your home, in your marriage with your children, a non-anxious presence. Okay? So think of it this way. If there is a man who's emotionally healthy, his heart's in a good place, and he's living in joy and returning to joy, if that dad comes home, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a great thing. It's like, dad's home. Yay, dad's home. Okay? Now, if your dad is not emotionally healthy, dad comes home, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Bad thing, anxious presence. Some of you grew up in a home where your dad brought anxious presence. You're like, oh no, is he angry? Is he stressed? Is he gonna yell? Like, what are we getting into? Your hope and prayer and goal as a man would be, you'd be emotionally healthy, and then you would bring a non-anxious presence. You're around your wife, she feels at ease. You're around your kids, they feel at ease. Some of you grew up with a father who was emotionally unhealthy, and it created an anxious presence. The goal as a man is to live by the power of the Holy Spirit, and the fruit of the Spirit is joy, and to be not an anxious presence, but a calming presence and a joyful presence. Hey, howdy, Pastor Mark here. Thanks for viewing the clip. And if you'd like the entire sermon, we've got it ready to go.